When the 10th generation Civic came out, we decided that we needed to rank them 1 through 10. Well, we're finally getting around to it, and there's 11.
Whoops.
Welcome to VTEC Academy. You're about to hear our opinions.
Oh.
I want to go through all the generations, their different iterations, models, whatever you want to call them. Body styles more than anything, not the DXLX thing. And rank them according to what you think they should be. So I've got this.
As enthusiasts.
As enthusiasts, absolutely.
They're all pretty great as like regular consumer cars, pretty much. But
well, the sales say so.
yeah.
Yeah, it's the #1 non-fleet model car in the universe. Well, the Accord was actually for quite a while, but the Civic is now, or the CR-V is now. That doesn't count.
It's not a car.
It's not a car. Yeah, it's self-defense from Ford F-150s and Chevy, whatever the hell they are. Obviously, let's start with the first generation. That would be the Civic in 1972, which was the 1200.
Yeah, they made it from 1972 to 1979.
79,
right?
Exactly. And then it came in 2 body styles. It came as a 2-door fastback saloon or sedan, 2-door sedan, and it had this cute little trunk on it.
It's like flap.
Yeah, I know.
It's like some long johns with the flap in the back so you can go to the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We'll call it the dump flap. And then you had the hatchback. And then in the next year, they came out with the CVCC, compound vortex combustion chamber. Is that right? Something like that. And that was basically a small little port inside the head that would get a fuel charge. It was actually a little chamber. Got a fuel charge, and the spark plug blew that up, and then it jetted the flames down into the main part of the cylinder where there was a very lean mixture. And because they used a rich mixer to ignite the lean mixture, it had a pretty much complete burn and very low emissions. And by the way, there are several Formula One engines that use that now. It works very well. It's very efficient.
It's an important generation because it's the one that started everything off.
Right.
And it came out right when the oil crisis was happening in '73. And I think it really gave people options where, you know, if you didn't know you were getting gas anytime in the next week and a half or whatever it took to get to your next tank.
Have you ever driven one?
I have not driven.
So I have. I've owned, but only a race car, 1200 race car.
It's pretty
It
much
had
the same,
side
right?
drafts on it. It's pretty cool.
So how did it
We have a
drive
couple of them down at work.
compared to like other race car
At the
versions?
time I was driving a GTI, and it was, of course, hollow because it was a race car, and it seemed like it wasn't as substantial as the Volkswagen was, but then it weighed a lot less than the Volkswagen did. But I mean, it was fun. It was a lot of blast. It was a lot of fun. It was a blast. I don't know I'm going to rank it based on that. I think I'm going to rank it more based on my feelings about it.
Okay.
I really like the 1200, actually more than the CVCC. And I'm going to put it number 5 on my list, right in the middle. Had independent rear suspension.
Didn't it have independent front too?
Yeah. But it had independent rear suspension. It had strut front suspension, so it wasn't double wishbone or anything. But the 1200, was a good engine, and it was a fairly, peppy car. I thought it was very cool. Crossflow head, 3 valves per cylinder, and I forget what horsepower it made, but because it was so lightweight, it felt really peppy. Nice car. So I'd rank it as number 4 on my list. I really like that body style too.
Wait, you moved it up from 5th to 4th?
I'm sorry, 5th. You're right.
Okay.
5th.
I was going to say,
Sorry.
wow, you really talked yourself into this.
Yeah.
You're not going to give
By the time we're done, it'll be number 1. What about you?
I think that for the Civic line, or it's a really important car.
Yep.
And really an important car for Honda that actually helped them set down roots in automobile industry in the U.S.
Yep.
So I mean, I wouldn't go as high as 5. I'd say 6th.
6? All right, so let's put those up.
All right, next up is the second generation. It's the short generation,
Well, it's still 4
1980.
years.
1980, but it just feels like so quick.
Yeah.
Especially since the first generation lasted 7 years. But I guess it is right on the timeline for Civics when they started it, kind of. I'm not super familiar with the second generation.
We have 2 of these cars down at work. We have a sport model, which was red and was the sportier version, 1500cc motor. We have another one that was just a normal DX. That's one we're putting a J series in.
Oh, the blue one?
Yeah, the blue one. Now, you had an 8081 with round headlights and an 8082 with square headlights. This reminds me a lot of a Rabbit. And I like it for that reason. But it wasn't anything special. They didn't really do anything huge. It was still 1500 cc's like the previous generation. Other than I think they improved the look of it a little bit. It was more modernized and stuff like that. It doesn't particularly interest me. I mean, it's got strut front suspension, independent rear suspension. We happen to actually have one of these cars down at work that is a King Motorsports built version of this. And it actually, they raced it in GT5, or one of their customers did way back in the day. And it's got it actually has a Mugen 1200 in it. So that's just sitting down there, needs to be worked on at some point. I think my brother bought it to get the engine out of it to put it in a 1200 he has. There were no, the only really thing they did with this is, if you look at the Civic, the generation before that, the power brake booster was on the right-hand side, even though the car was left-hand drive. There was like a transfer bar that went across. So when you pushed on the pedal, it pushed the thing on the other side. At this point, the body style started to change, whether it was left-hand drive or right-hand drive.
Okay.
So, but other than that, you know, they have basically updated the looks a little bit. Yeah, a little bit bigger. I'm not sure, probably a little bit more horsepower, but nothing else really spectacular.
Just, you know, pretty nominal improvements from the previous generation.
Yeah.
Nothing like that was like, this is amazing, and this is why Honda's Honda.
Exactly, and still CVCC. That was still their claim to fame. Although by this time, the government had just basically dictated that all cars had to have catalytic converters. So even though it didn't need one, it had a catalytic converter on it. You would open up the hood and there'd just be crazy number of vacuum lines in there, you know. The 1200 had very few. The CVCC had quite a bit more. This had even tighter emissions and a more sophisticated carburetor and stuff like that. But still basically the same engine. In fact, you can swap the engines around in those cars. So you can even put a 1500 and a 1200, although you've got to do some modifications. But yeah. But these, I mean, I like them. They're pretty. They had a look. I think it'd be,
Now you ruined the look for me, saying that it looked like a VW.
A VW,
now I see that in like the C-pillar. I'm seeing it a lot.
yeah, sorry.
Now it's ruined.
Now it's
I
ruined.
had to put it way lower.
Yeah.
So, where would you rank this generation then?
Number 9. I'm sorry, number 10.
Number 10.
Yeah, I mean, just because there wasn't anything super duper about it. It wasn't the worst of them. But yeah, so I'd rank it at number 10.
That's where I was gonna
You just put it too?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, next up is the 84 to 87 Civic. This one gets a little bit interesting because actually in 86 they had a fuel injected version. But the earlier ones were EW motors, CVCC, came as a 1300 and a 1500, but it came as a sedan, a wagon, or shuttle, I think they called it, or the
hatchback.
Or the hatchback. And I don't know if we want to count this, but they had the Civic CRX. Do we want to count that?
Yeah, I mean, it's
All
a
right.
Civic CRX.
No, yep, absolutely.
It counts. It counts.
It does, it counts. The only reason I asked that is because in 88, the CRX was its own thing. They didn't call it a Civic CRX. So, but 84-7 was a Civic CRX.
Is that going to play into your?
I'm not necessarily.
No.
No. I mean, I like even if I didn't take into consideration the CRX, it'd still be about the same ranking. So, but I like the CRX a lot. This particular one's the 8045 S model before fuel injection. You can tell by the recessed headlights. In 86 and 87, the headlights were flush. There was a JDM version with dual overhead cam, the SI, like would be the equivalent of a 86, 87 Integra motor in it.
I was gonna say like a pre-ZC.
It is a ZC.
Is it?
It was actually called a ZC.
Okay.
In fact, when they used to bring them over, people would call them brown top ZCs. So you would go to this JDM importer, look for brown tops, and sometimes you'd find the Integra ones, and sometimes you'd find the Civic ones.
Okay.
So, and there was a slight difference in the transmission, but they were interchangeable. You could use them on either one, everything mounted the same. But there was like an LSD version of it. In fact, I have one of those transmissions somewhere. I'll have to dig it out.
Really?
Yeah. In fact, I was thinking about putting that engine in my 1200 with the LSD transmission.
As long as it's not the same generation or less performance version, it sounds like a good idea.
It's always a good idea. But yeah, I mean, that's the first year of the fuel injected cars, and they had, of course, the HF CRX, which got 50 miles per gallon, which was unheard of back in that time. And that was, I think that came out in 85.
I heard about people even getting more than that with.
Oh, yeah, Hypermile?
Yeah,
Hypermile, oh, yeah, I'm sure.
With not even having to do anything super crazy, like, put wheel spats on and.
They would just drive them, yeah, super conservatively and not come to
probably
stops. And
you wouldn't want to be behind them on the highway.
Yeah, exactly.
Freaking move.
Well, they were faster at stop signs than they were on the highway. Keep the momentum up, roll right through them. Anyway, so that was, I really, really like those cars.
In fact, this was my introduction to Honda.
Oh, really?
It was my mom's 1984 Civic DX hatchback.
And what color was it?
It was that golden.
That golden bronze thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. What did they call it? I can't remember what they're called. That is why Honda Auto Salvage exists and Hasport exists, because Keith's, my brother, who originally had Honda Auto Salvage, where I went to work for, and then we built Hasport out of that. His mother-in-law had the same color and year Civic, and he had been partners in a Volvo salvage yard, and he wanted to do his own thing. So he was working on her car all the time, and so he kind of liked it, so he decided to start a Honda salvage yard, because there wasn't any only Honda salvage yards in Arizona. So he started that, and basically started racing Hondas, because he also was doing autocross in a Volkswagen at the time. So anyway, he just started doing all the stuff with Hondas. Then when I went to work with him, same thing. I started doing all the stuff with Hondas. But yeah, so we both own our Honda roots. Our Honda roots.
The third generation.
Third generation. So having said that, where would you rank it?
I'm thinking number 7.
7? Oh, that's fine. That's fair.
Because it's also like the first. I know that there were some people that raced the second generation. I'm sure the first two, probably not in the States really, but like the third generation was like first all the ones that were like wide body and like purposely.
Oh yeah, they had Mugen versions of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had the American Mugen one had the slight fender flares, and there was the road racing one you saw that was racing nationals and stuff like that. They had the really wide body. It was super cool. And I'll be honest with you, I'm going to rate it quite a bit higher. I'm going to rate it at number 4 for that reason, because of the modifications. Because that was the first mount kit ever designed, was a B series for the 84-7. We had one of those with the Mugen wide body kit on it that was just crazy. It was drag race. That was just a blast. We just put the wide body on the front end of it only. And that actually went off to Eric Aguilar eventually. But that was originally D16 with a turbo, and then we did the B series swap kit, and then we sold it off to Aguilar, and he turbocharged it and raced it for quite a few years. So I'm going to rank it at number 4, and you ranked it at number 6, I think you said?
7.
7, okay. I'm trying to get it. So far, it looks like I'm more of a fan of classics than you are.
Maybe we're products of our generations, man.
Could be. I am older.
A little bit.
That's how I've heard. All right, this of course is a picture of the CRX. Sorry, I forgot to put up the 4th gen. But anyway, this of course is a CRX. The 4th gen came as, of course, a CRX, came as a hatchback, came as a sedan, and of course came as a wagon. And part of the wagon was the all-wheel drive wagon, which so many people are using parts from that for doing all-wheel drive conversions. By the way, 84.7, there was also an all-wheel drive wagon, but it had a beam axle, not independent rear suspension. So, but anyway, this of course is the CRX. This particular one I own. Back then I didn't own. That's from Sport Compact Car. We bought it shortly afterwards for about $5,000. So we did ZC to V16A. Then I supercharged that, blew it up at a Super Tuner TV event. Or not blew it up, but got a rod knock. So then I put a K in it. And then I put a K24 in it. And then I supercharged that. And then I put a J in it. And now it's got a supercharged J in it. Although we're bringing it back with just the J and then supercharging it again. So that car's been around. And if you can't tell, it's my favorite generation. It also happens that my first Honda car, not motorcycle, I raced Honda motorcycles when I was a kid. My first Honda car was an '89 Civic hatch. So I used to road race that and daily drive it. And that was back when I had a full race setup, roll bar in the car, 2 race seats, because I used to bring Carter around all the time. He was kind of tall for his age, but I used to stick him in there and buckle him up with the 5-point harness. And I would drive him to school and stuff. He would always be, I bet the kids are so jealous of me.
You're like, sure, Carter.
Yeah.
That's why I'm doing this.
No, that's exactly why I was doing it.
Yeah,
But,
I owned an '89 SI too.
Did you?
Yeah. Mine was modified by somebody else prior to me buying it. So that was kind of a fun way to learn more about cars, was figuring out what they did that wasn't so great.
It was so great.
But it did have a B16 in it.
Cool.
And it had that really close ratio.
The gearbox,
I forget whatever Integra and
the J1, I think it was. You're talking about from the 1993 Integra VTI, what is it? XSI.
Yeah,
and it had a
like
super
that.
close ratio. I can't remember if it was a J1 or an S1, but it was super close ratio. It's funny because I think they did that with the Japanese car because the Integra weighs so much more. They had to have a short gearbox to get it to be quick, you know. But yeah, that was the one to have for road racing. In fact, my hatchback, originally I got it from the junkyard. It had I forget if it had a blown motor. The body was perfect. It had a blown motor. I put a ZC in it with an SI transmission and raced that for a little while. And then I swapped a B16 in it and raced that for a little while. And then unfortunately pounded a wall at about 70 miles an hour. And that was the end of that car. But yeah, that was, I loved that car. That was such a great car.
The VTEC Meister Passport brought their monster CRX to the tollgate.
FF で前に進まないなんてあるんだ。
And that's one of the reasons I bought that car right over there. You can't see right now.
Project Back Marker.
Yeah, Project Back Marker was because that was my first Honda car. So I really liked it. Where would you rate your car?
A 4th generation.
Yep.
I would say 4. It's pretty easy to.
4th generation and 4th.
You kind of got the party started, really, for a lot of people because they looked great, especially in that era.
Oh yeah. Well, I would say Hasport owes its success to that car because for probably somewhere between 7 and 10 years, we sold 100 B-Series swap kits a month for that car. So it was crazy how well it did for us. I'm gonna rate it number 1, not just because of the CRX, which is my favorite car, but also because of the hatchback, which is my other favorite car. So number 1 for me. Okie dokie, next up is the 5th generation Civic. The one I think most everybody might rank as their number one.
I could definitely see that.
Yeah.
It's like when Honda was just starting to hit on all cylinders, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the design of the 88 to 91 was amazing, but this one with the, what they call it, soap bubble styling.
Yeah, it's
this
called
thing,
like EG bubble.
yeah, people love this car. I mean, absolutely love this car. It's so popular for racing. This was the car, of course, that was the one that was in Fast and Furious.
Yeah, the coupes were in Fast and Furious.
Exactly.
Also, there was a couple. There was the Veilside one. Also, that was in the hatchback.
Yeah. So yeah, this car kind of, I think, epitomizes it for a lot of people. It came as the hatchback, and with an SI version, it came as a coupe. First time for a coupe. It came as a sedan, of course, and in '93 it came as a Del Sol. And that ran all the way actually through '97, so it even went longer than that did.
Yeah, I thought that was so weird how they went 1 year over.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of odd. But yeah, that car.
That was the 5th generation.
Yeah, the 5th generation was
Odd.
Huh? Odd. Get it? I understand. A little slow, but I think that generation of car is, again, epitomizes it for everybody, and I think that is what most people think of when they think of hot rodded Hondas. So.
Well, and plus it's pretty much set up the formula for modifying Hondas is you get good suspension, some good wheels and tires, and you can start tossing it around and being competitive, and then you start getting into power modifications, and then you're really...
Oh yeah, you slap a B series right in there, the Integra motor or the Del Sol motor or any of the Japanese motors. It bolts right in with factory Honda parts, so it's just a huge deal. And the engine bay is good size. You were talking about you can swap a K in it, easy enough.
The K just took it to a whole nother level in this chassis because it put the weight on the opposite side of the driver, which we didn't know that it could be better than what it was until we had it the other way with the K.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, this is even quicker.
Yeah.
Just with that, even with just a stock swap.
Well, any stock K swap actually beats the hell out of a stock B swap. So.
Well, we saw that when Bud GDG went against my hatchback.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though I had more horsepower.
Yeah,
it's
the fact that I had all that torque.
All that torque and just it's.
And the K swap is a really nice swap in this car. It's like, you know, the ticket right now for road racing and stuff like that.
But I'm sure the balance helps you out too.
Oh yeah, but even still, the B series is still an amazing motor in that, and of course that came out around this time. So, well, actually it came out before its time, but it
just
got,
before it.
Yeah. But a lot of people were importing even the older ones and putting them in these cars. Hasport would make mounts to basically run the cable transmissions in these cars, and we sold the heck out of those things. So really sold a lot of them.
Yeah, my swap didn't have Hasport mounts. It uses stock
mounts. Yeah, exactly. So where would you rank this one?
Where would I rank this one? I would rank it really high, thinking probably number 2.
Number 2? I'll rank it number 3.
There's such a like versatile generation.
But it's like extremely close to my number 2. I mean, it was like neck and neck with my number 2.
Next up, 6th generation, 1996 through 2000. Came in sedan, coupe, hatchback. Here it didn't come as a wagon, but they did have a 5-door. Of course, it's the generation that had the first Civic Type R.
Yep.
It wasn't here, but
yeah, we didn't get it. But it was a hatchback, super cool, right-hand drive,
and then the craziest B16.
Yeah. And I think
B16B.
Yep. And then also the 99 SI. There wasn't a lot of Del Sol VTECs, but there were quite a few 99 SIs.
Oh yeah, the EM1 is like the car to have if you have like a stock unmolested version now. It goes for bank.
Yeah.
Especially the more stock, the better.
Yep. Yeah.
And of course, it gave us the Super Street Hot Wheels Civic Si. I think they did that for. It was at SEMA. It was all over the place.
Yeah.
You can kind of see some of the things that they did to modify 6th gens. It kind of trickled up, and you can see it in the more modern Type Rs.
You gotta wonder if the guys who went to school to become engineers, who got hired on a Honda, and eventually were working on it, this was possibly some of their influence. You know what I mean? Because that whole huge openings in the front end, the combat kit style stuff where they had, you know, totally useless. I mean, all it did was put more air in the car. But
there were 50,000 different kits you can get.
Oh yeah.
Like you could, just like in the 5th gen, but I feel like it even increased with this generation.
I think that it increased with this generation for sure. This was the boom time. And it's interesting, this particular car, not this particular car, the hatchback of this era is very, very close to me with the 92-5.
Okay.
The only, eventually I had a hard time determining which one I liked better, and I just prefer the looks of the 96 to 2000 hatchback over the earlier Model 1. It was too smooth for me. I liked the kind of flat, more angular style of the 88, and then the 92-5 was a little bit too smooth.
Kind of blew it out of the water. Like, you kind of said, you like that, but what about everything that's not?
Yeah. And then I liked the EK9 Civic, Type R Civic. That one, I really liked the look of that a lot more. If I had a choice between a 92-5 and a 96-2000 for the same price, I would get the 96-2000 one. We had that red EK, plus we had the budget EG. I would choose the EK every time over that. But it does require a little bit more to modify because it's OBD2. So it's not quite as easy. But speaking at it from if this were my one car between the two of them, I would have to choose the EK. And if I ever bought a JDM Type R, that's the one I think I would like to buy. Yeah.
The first Honda that I personally owned was a 96 sedan.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I started off with a 6th gen, and then I moved to a 5th gen, and then I ended up with a 4th gen. I kept getting older and older.
Older and older. Interesting. Now, did you, I mean, obviously, I understand why you went from you said a 7th gen first?
No.
The 6th gen?
The 6th gen, and
the 6th gen, and then, yeah.
Sedan to EG hatch to EF hatch.
Yeah.
Back to EG.
Interesting. Yeah. Was there a reason why I went like that, or was each car a little bit more modified?
Well, the first one was the first car that I ever bought.
So
from
bone
like a
stock.
dealership, bone stock.
D16, whatever, Z, whatever. And
Yeah, I think it was D16, automatic, DX level trim. So it was lighter, but it had dinky 13-inch wheels.
yeah, tiny brakes. Drums in the back. Yeah.
Yeah, I modified mine, but I mean.
Yeah, I'm not a real big fan of that sedan model. I liked the coupe. I love the hatchback. Not a big fan of the sedan model. I actually prefer the EG sedan, probably because of my exposure to some of the early JGTCs.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah.
Was it the EG9?
Yeah. I thought those were very cool.
And the cool thing about here was that, at least for part of the generation of the EGs, I mean, they were Japanese made. The
Good
sedans.
point. Yeah.
But that doesn't work here.
Yeah.
The 6th gens, I feel like they came from Canada or Ohio.
Yeah.
Or
Modification-wise, a little more difficult to modify this. Number one, because of the OBD2. If you're trying to keep it legal, your choices are pretty slim. You need a 96 up Integra motor and ECU, or you need a 99 SI motor and backdate your electronic or update your electronics a little bit. Obviously, the 92-5 be easier to modify, but I still would rather have a 96. I think that the one we're working on right now, the Midori EK, that's going to be a cool project. It's going to be really cool. So where would you rank it?
I would rank it surprisingly low, I think, for people. Is 5th.
And why?
Just because, for me, it's really similar to the 5th generation.
It's not enough of a change.
Well, that and, you know, I feel like, especially when I started out, the stuff that you can go faster with a 5th gen for cheaper than you could with a 6th gen.
I agree with that. I think that that's absolutely true. I think there's still so many performance parts available for that, and it's easier to modify. But purely on looks, and because to me, I can modify it anyway.
Yeah.
I know it takes a little bit more. I prefer that just because of the hatch and the coupe. I like the coupe too. Sedan, yeah.
Yeah, I like.
But yeah,
I celebrate the whole.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the EG coupe. I like the EG hatchback, but I like that hatchback more. I like the EG sedan more than I do that, but you know, I think that I like better than the EG sedan. Well, not that particular one. That one's a bit much.
What? I thought it was very subtle.
Very subtle. This is one version of the 7th generation Civic. In fact, this is the only version. If this was the only version we were judging it on, I would rank it relatively high.
I would rank it higher than what I'm going to rank it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, I shouldn't say relative. I would rank it much higher than what I would rank it, because this car was kind of cool. Mm-hmm. I love the shifter up high. Mm-hmm. I thought that was amazing. The fact that it had a K series. I mean, we bought one of these the day they came out in Phoenix. We picked it up. It was black. We had actually ordered European front and rear bumpers, a Type R, European Type R bodywork. We had it painted yellow, and it was on the cover of Sport Compact Car later that year. We immediately put an RSX Type S motor in. Mm-hmm. That car was so fun to drive, it was ridiculous. Afterwards, we swapped in a CRV bottom end, and then after that, we supercharged it. And actually ran in American tailgate with it. In fact, I totally felt like I brought a knife to a gunfight. But people really liked the car, and the car was a blast to drive. In fact, it was on the Super Tuner episode as well. We raced it supercharged for that, and that car was pretty quick. But the suspension's horrible on that car.
That suspension's trash.
It's horrible. It just blows me away that it's such a popular car in Europe. But I'm sure it's because of the Type R version.
Yeah.
You know, 220 horsepower, whatever it was. And it's a good looking car. Mm-hmm. But then you look at the coupe and the sedan, particularly the 01 to 03. Oh, those things are so ugly.
It's the worst Civic I've ever owned. And it was the newest. I've only purchased used Civics. Mm-hmm. But this one was the newest one that I've ever bought. And, you know, in relation to when it actually came out. And it was just a dog. It had like stock versus my 96. Mm-hmm. And it was like night and day driving experience wise. But it had the flat floor in the back, and that was big.
So this is the one where Honda had decided that their typical customer was Jennifer, mm-hmm. a young 20-something girl, and she wanted to take her friends places, and they wanted the flat floor in the back so that people didn't, when three people in the back, they didn't just sit like that.
Which is kind of a cool concept, but.
Yeah, remember the commercial?
Actually, yeah.
A girl had her 3 friends in the car, and then her brother was sitting in the center, and he was like bummed that he didn't have the rise column, so he couldn't like play footsie with the 2 girls on either side of him.
Joey, cut it out!
So that was hilarious.
The updated version of both the coupe and the sedan were way better looking.
Yeah, when they changed the headlights on that thing, it looked so much better. We had a 2001 in the salvage yard that I did a case swap in. It was one of the first case swaps. Mm-hmm. It was first K swap ones of those, and it was on the cover of Honda Tuning magazine. But I got the 05 bodywork. In fact, Honda sponsored me for that, which was beautiful. Put the 05 bodywork on it, put the hybrid little wing on the back, and we had K swapped it, and that was and I liked that car.
That was the black and blue. Ended up being the black and blue car.
Black and blue car, yeah. And it was fun to drive around because it was torquey and fast, and and it was different looking, and the paint was pretty cool with the two-tone paint. And this is even funnier. We turbocharged that car and then drove it in the Superforce shootout for car and driver and placed, I think, second overall in the front wheel drive 4-cylinder division. So the car was really good. We actually teamed up with Progress for the suspension, AEM for the ECU and tuning.
And big brakes.
And big brakes. They were doing big brakes back then. Turbo was done by Miles Batista. So I was trying to think of the name of his company.
Back then I think it was Rev Hard.
Yeah, Rev Hard. I keep wanting to put Max in front of it. Yeah, Rev Hard. So so it was 450 horsepower, and
didn't you put like RSX suspension on it?
Yeah, we put RSX suspension. We did the 5-lug conversion on it, and it had RSX suspension rather than ES or EM suspension on it, and it was a fun car to drive. But your 2006 kind of whacked it at when we did our shootout. Granted, the suspension was 18 years old, but 20 years old. But still, it really didn't compare to the newer car. But it was still a pretty quick car, and with a good driver, it was fast. And I like it for that reason, but I hate it for so many other reasons.
Right? It's kind of just very mid. Like it's not, compared to its competition, it didn't suck.
Yeah, better than the cars that were being made at the same time. You're right, it didn't suck.
But for a Civic, it wasn't awesome. And I remember the big beef with the 7th gen in the United States for the SI was that the horsepower stayed flat, which is kind of a theme for Honda sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though it was a better performing car, engine-wise.
Yeah.
But people really weren't feeling it because you're saying I got this bigger engine, I make the same amount of power.
Yeah.
Like it.
Yeah. But another thing that's interesting is the rest of the world got a Type R version of it.
Exactly, and that's what people are in love with.
Oh yeah.
And I would really go Type R EP3.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean we basically built one, but I think that and if we were voting on it as an EP3 and that was the only model that came out, it's going to be higher than what I'm going to vote on for. But what are you going to rate this one as?
It is my least favorite generation of
Number
all
11.
time. It is number 11. And that's saying something because, I haven't even driven 2 of these generations.
Yeah.
Sorry if you own a 7th gen. I'm sure it's really cool. I've seen some really cool ones.
I've seen some cool ones.
Like that, some like hardcore track ones at MIMS Honda Day.
Oh yeah.
That white one, remember with the mint cage? It was very sick. It's pretty sick, but
yeah, that car is hugely popular in England.
But
yeah. All right, so I'm going to rate it at the same place, number 11.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I did not see that coming.
In spite of having owned an EP3 and Black and Blue, which I find were both good cars, that we did a lot of work to polish that turd. So yeah, not my favorite.
All right, next up is the 8th generation. In the US, it was available as a coupe, sedan, and that's it.
That's it.
They killed the hatchback for this generation.
They did.
Which kind of sucked.
No, Europe got a hatchback.
But Europe got a version.
Yeah. FD2. Is that what it was?
No, they got the FN2.
FN2.
Japan got the FD2.
Yeah, Japan got the FD2.
Which
was the sedan Type R.
Sedan Type R, which is really cool if you have a sedan, because you can put all the cool JDM stuff on it.
Yeah. Which you have, which you should.
Wait, I don't have a JDM stuff.
No, you should put all the JDM stuff.
Oh, okay.
All right, so let's talk about the strut front end.
Yeah, it didn't have wasn't back to like the cool double wishbone stuff.
Nope.
But they figured a lot of stuff out.
Yeah, definitely better. And the back suspension was much, much better. So, yeah, they moved the shocks outboard. Springs are still kind of inboard. The shocks went outboard, and that gives it much better control over the rear end. And the cars handle really nice.
Yeah.
They're quick. They handle good. They came with a K20.
They came with the good K20.
SI model, yeah.
And it wasn't like a 160.
Yeah.
It was, depending on which year, I think, because they changed the way they rated the horsepower. One year it was like 200, and the next it was like 197 or something like that.
Exactly.
But basically, the 200 horsepower K20
Yeah.
with LSD.
And they came out, 2006 got the two-door, and 2007 it was two-door and four-door,
Yes.
and then all the way through. So, what do you think about the coupe? I know you like the sedan.
I like the coupe not as much as I like the sedan, though.
Yeah.
And
The coupe doesn't do it for me.
and it's not bad looking, but in comparison, it's not as good looking.
Yeah. I love the sedan. I'm lukewarm about the coupe. We had one, we modified it, it was fun. It made it in modified, made it on TV, it made it in a couple of magazines and stuff like that. It was cool.
Yeah,
I
and a lot
liked
of
it.
people consider this like the last like real
I do.
for the Type R's. They consider it like the last real Type R because of the FD2,
Yeah.
and for the SIs, the last
Well, I
real
consider
SI
it the real
because,
SI, last real SI. I
because
consider
it's
it the
a high
last,
revving K20
right.
versus
I
the next
consider it
one.
the last of the cool Honda Civics. The generation before this, not so much. I mean, the EP3, yeah, but the rest of them, not so much. This one, I really like. When this came out, I said, "Oh, thank God, it's not over for Honda." So yeah, I liked it a lot.
Yeah, and plus, I think the good thing is that they listened to kind of like what people were disappointed in the 7th generation, and they addressed it for the 8th generation.
Yeah.
Like, all of a sudden it got pretty much a 40 horsepower bump like that
Yeah.
out of a 2-liter.
Well, I think one of the reasons that happened was they abandoned the RSX. So there was no flagship 4-cylinder car anymore. So they decided to give us the SI and give it the works. The EP3 didn't get the good motor because they didn't want it competing with the RSX. But this car did because there was no RSX. And we all know an RSX is actually an Integra in the rest of the world. But
still, I don't think they handle as well as the 8th gen.
oh yeah, no, not at all. But I mean, basically when they stopped making the RSX, this became Honda's hot 4-cylinder. So.
Yeah, I actually almost bought a coupe.
Did it really? Well,
I went to the dealership and they had a coupe, and they sold it like an hour before I got there. They're like, "But we have this 4-door if you want to check it out." I was like, "All right, fine, I'll take a look." And then I was
you're like, oh, this is nice.
like, this could be pretty sick.
Yeah.
It's like,
It is. It's a really good looking car.
and plus it's, besides being able to modify it and take it to the track or whatever, like as the utility of a car, you know,
As a family man.
you got a real trunk, you could fit
Decent
throwing people
stuff
in the
it.
back, like
Throw people in the trunk.
you could,
Yeah. It's a decent sized trunk.
but,
2 dead bodies easy.
and it's still got a decent turning radius.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good car.
And it's old enough where the SUVs on the road weren't super huge yet. So they could get away with making a car that's this size as
opposed to Accord size.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Great car. Really nice car. So we're going to rank that?
I'm gonna rank that 3rd.
Number 3. Whoops. I have to make an adjustment. I meant to mount this number 6. And yes, I like the 06 better than the 1200. Whoa. we're coming up to the other cars, and I haven't even ranked those yet. Interesting. That brings us to the 9th gen, or what I like to call the slightly modified 8th gen.
The kind of the chromed over
Yeah,
heavy version of the 8th gen.
the chromed over heavy version, which they put a bigger motor in with more torque, but still.
I mean, it was marginally quicker.
Changed.
Quicker,
Yeah,
but not in ways that were insurmountable if you modified your 8th gen.
yeah, it feels to me like it was marginally changed. You know, it was not a significant bump. And for that reason, I wasn't really that much of a fan. I mean, the sedan didn't look as nice as the 8th gen sedan. The coupe didn't look as nice as the, well, just didn't like it. So
No.
they just kind of made it, took the 8th gen and made it more spaceshipy, you know? So,
Yeah, I could see that.
yeah.
The seats were really cool,
The seats are way comfortable.
but I really like my 8th gen seats
Yeah,
too.
your 8th gen seats are great. And the engine was pretty cool, except for the single outlet exhaust and
But that makes it good for turbocharging. But
yeah.
then again,
and
if,
this car is great with a turbo.
you know, they're more expensive to get too.
Yeah.
For you know, versus an 8th gen where you can get similar performance and a lot of the same utility, just at a lower point of entry.
Looking at this with the vents up front, you can kind of see where they're going a little bit with the design language. But if you look at the
Especially down here by the fogs, you can
Yeah.
see kind of what they were going with.
but if you look at the hatchback Type R that came in Europe, you definitely see the direction they're heading. It's really a stepping stone towards that. And it's unfortunate that we didn't get that car
Yeah, we didn't get that or the Estate.
or the Estate. Yeah, the Estate wagon that they
looks-
BTCC raced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like they did it with the Type R.
Yep.
And it was too easy. They're like, well,
Yeah.
let's make it a challenge.
Let's make it, exactly. But this car is meh into me. It's so unfortunate we didn't get the Type R.
Yeah.
The Type R would have really set it apart.
It would have sent up the ladder for me. Because
Yeah.
I remember seeing Honda had that Type R.
Yeah, we went and saw that.
And I
that
was
one
like losing my mind. It was the front wheel drive hatchback king of the mountain.
day. Yeah.
Like it was like knocking on the door of the times of like the GTR would do at the Nürburgring when the GTR was supposed to be the world beater, and now you're doing it in a front wheel drive car.
Front wheel drive 4-cylinder.
Yeah.
You know, crazy. Yeah, I'm was never that impressed with this car. At the same time, Honda came out with a City, which to me was the new Civic. And see this kind of large flat area? They did that on the City with kind of a upward facing groove on the side. I actually think the City was a better Civic than this Civic was, but probably because it was smaller.
And you see a lot of those around San Diego. People drive them up from Mexico, and they're
Okay.
like, I'm always like, oh, K-swap that, and that would be pretty sick.
That would be pretty cool. I think a L15 V7 swap, but yeah, K-swap would be amazing. Yeah, and it would be basically GD or GEK K-swap kit in it, and it would work pretty cool. All right, so I don't mean to cut this one short, but what would you rank it?
I would rank it 9th.
What a coincidence, so would I.
Seriously?
Yeah,
Did you look at my notes?
no.
Good, because I don't have any. Yeah, it says something when the best 9th gen sedans kind of look more like 8th gens, you know, like modified.
Yeah. Here's what's interesting. This line right here, to me, is a chasm. It is vast. These cars I like much more than these cars.
Yeah, I would say
So-
that for me too.
Yeah.
And the last two you have very close. Mine are very far apart.
Yeah. Where did you get this?
Oh, you haven't seen this? This is a 10th generation Civic Type R. It was owned by Passport.
Yes. So true.
So yeah, we're on the 10th gen.
We are. And it came a coupe, a sedan, a hatchback, and a Type R. You can't help but judge all the Civics off the Type R. I mean, don't get me wrong, the hatchback was very cool looking by itself. The sedan and coupe, they were fine, but the Type R was amazing. This Type R, our Type R, had an interesting history. We bought it on a Friday, brought it to the track on a Saturday, tracked it, brought it back to the shop on a Monday. Tuesday we shot a video with it, and we pulled the motor out on Wednesday. And then we tried the motor in a bunch of different cars.
So if you haven't seen that video, go watch
check it out.
After this video though.
Yeah, we actually
Open another tab.
We made multiple videos on it, tried it in a bunch of different cars. I'll tell you what's funny, the next car I designed a mount kit for, we didn't even try it in. It was probably a TSX. Did we try it in TSX?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't think we did. We're gonna put one in TSX. I think that'll be cool.
But this car was, again, like they were kind of having I think it was like a Formula One proxy war between Renault and Honda. Because Renault did some really like kind of shady stuff to take back the hot hatch king, because they would have like a special edition of special edition,
especially exactly
versus like just a production. And I'm sure Honda did everything that they could legally and still say it was a production car.
Yeah,
but it was the
hand
base.
assembled.
It was all, at the time. It was the only trim level Type R you could have. There wasn't even like an LE yet. That was a couple more years.
Yeah, but this car I've driven this car at autocross, around town, long distance. That is the most comfortable seat I've ever driven in. That car was way comfortable. My son Carter, who's quite a bit taller and bigger than me, also felt the same way. Extremely comfortable. My only complaint was the 20-inch wheels and the tiny little tires. There were potholes because of a wet summer we had, and I bent rims and blew out tires, and yeah, that wasn't
But
fun.
you know that they had the 20s for a reason.
Why? That's just dumb.
No, it was to actually combat torque steer with the K20C1. For Honda, it was super torquey. So they were really, besides the suspension to deal with the torque, they also addressed through the wheels the way.
Now,
that's what the designer said. And when it came out, I watched every single thing about this.
And was that the fact that it was a 20-inch wheel, or the fact that it had such a high offset?
I think it was because it was a 20-inch wheel. They eliminated. I don't know if it had something to do with the amount of flex or whatever at that point in the suspension with the wheel and tire.
Interesting.
But
yeah, because
everybody
there's no sidewall flex.
Right.
I wonder if there was something weird going on with scrub radiuses and stuff like that, and they didn't want the tires affecting the steering. Interesting.
Yeah, and they probably didn't want all the people at the magazines to get it and be like, it's an understeer champion. I can't believe it's doing all this stuff. They wanted it to be able to turn, even at the expense of it being rougher.
Yeah.
Like, they wanted to make sure that.
Oh, it turns great. Yeah, this car on the autocross course was amazing.
But people will do 19s and 18s and they're fine.
I stood on those brakes several times. Best ABS. The rev match was really, really good. I remember somebody saying, oh, it's not as good as blah, blah, blah. Believe me, it was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I came this close to getting one last year.
Yeah, almost. I still think about it, although I think I would actually like the new FL5. So.
Yeah, I know the style of this one really polarized a lot of people because of fake vents and like the issues of the overheating, where you have all these vents and you're still overheating, but they were fake vents. And
right. Well, they did the thing up on top to try to bring air out from underneath the hood. Didn't work.
You need to turn it to the other way.
Yeah. The big problem is the front is not ducted properly, so air is bouncing off, going around. The intercooler clogs up too much of it. The turbo's too close to the radiator. There's some serious design problems with this thing. I mean, when they went and ran Nürburgring, it was 50 some odd degrees, so it was cool. So they didn't have problems with it. Here in Arizona, take it out of the track, it starts pulling timing out dramatically after a few hot laps. So that made it tough. But it had amazing brakes, best brakes on any Honda I've ever driven, with the exception of a set of really nicely warmed up NSX brakes on the new generation NSX. But these brakes, out of the box, were just crazy good.
I'll have to take your word for it because I haven't driven one.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Ooh, you see the lightning?
Yeah.
Or is that the light?
No, that's the lights. Anyway,
But
so
I've only driven the FK7, which I think has a great look to it, and you get it's like
Agreed.
75% of a Type R.
agreed.
Maybe,
I think it's a beautiful
especially
car.
if you can modify it.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful car.
And Progress had a sedan that I drove that they did the rear sway upgrade, and they're like, go to this was like a cloverleaf interchange between roads or entrance or whatever it was. And it's like, no, you can go faster. You can go faster. They're like, you can go, put your foot all the way down. It just turned,
hooked it.
which is it's so funny because it's a basic looking sedan, Civic sedan.
Somewhere in here is a Type R sway bar that we're putting on cars outside. Right there.
All right.
From Progress. So we have a project car, 10th gen SI project car. We're gonna do some tuning on it and do some suspension on it. Looking for wheels right now. Funny, it's difficult to find wheels for the SI because it needs such a high offset. We're looking for an 18 by 9, so we can get a decent sized tire on it, and it needs to be like a plus 43 offset. So, and it needs to cost less than $3,500 for this set.
It's like just overnight from Japan.
Yeah, Carter would like that, but every time he asks me about, what do you think about these cars? Or tires or wheels, I'm always like, can you afford them? You can always see him go, yeah, I know.
But what if we shoot a video on it though?
Yeah, a video.
Yeah, okay, it's worth it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know how much we make per video.
Yeah.
So where would you put it?
Where would I put it? I'm going to put it at number 8. Where would you put it?
Number 1.
1. Let's write you up first.
Because I'm very immature and I like immature styling on cars.
Good for you.
And plus, all the issues with it are pretty well known by now.
Oh yeah.
So you can
You can
get
fix
around them.
most of them. Yep. All right, cool.
Can't fix the markup.
You can fix everything with the price. Last up, but obviously not least.
Not least because there's at least 3 other generations.
Yeah. No surprise where we're going to rank them, but let's talk about it anyway.
Sure.
So this is the new Civic. What are your thoughts on that car?
Well, on the FL5, I think it's awesome. It's kind of like a continuation of what the 10th gen did.
Yep.
It grew up a lot, I want to say.
I agree. It grew up a lot. I think that the fact that the rear fenders don't look bolted on. I think the fact that they've actually made it wider. I think the look of the new wing. I think the look of the front end with a much more functional vent setup. It still has that aggressiveness without having the doodaddedness. You know what I mean?
The ricerness?
The ricerness, the combatness. So
A lot more function in the design versus design for design.
if you look at the grille where the Honda badge is, you can see that a lot more air is getting in there. And that's going to hit the radiator, not the intercooler. The area where the intercooler is, that opening looks larger as well. So instead of having fakey vents on the side, they put bigger vents where they need to get to the radiator and the intercooler. And I think the car's slightly longer, so the turbo's not as close to the radiator.
Yeah, the
which should
front end's
help.
a little bit longer. Well, the whole car, I feel like
Yeah,
it
is.
just feels bigger.
True, it's bigger and wider. But I think that was done in order to fix a lot of problems. And the new hood vent actually works. It actually is set up to take air out rather than try to entrain it and pull it out the sides, which unfortunately didn't work.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and plus, for this generation, there's also the SI sedan,
Yep.
which is an improvement over the previous generation. We had SEMA, we talked to the guy from HPD,
yep.
and he basically laid out these were the problems with the 10th gen.
And we fixed them.
So the bad thing about these is they're still so new that it's kind of hard for you to get one and then still be able to go and modify it and stuff.
Well, the thing is, the modifications right now basically are tuning. But the other things are coming. They've already got turbo upgrades for them, and they've already got
Exhaust.
other things. But basically, the SI got the Accord turbo, which is twin scroll. So it's got a better head design, so it's a better engine.
The 1.5 liter.
The 1.5 liter.
Not the
and then, no,
C4.
but the Type R is basically the same. I don't know I think they might have changed the turbo slightly, but I think otherwise it's the same motor. So.
You got a little slight bump in horsepower.
Now, did they give the Integra more horsepower?
They gave the Integra more horsepower, I think, than the Type R, yeah.
And they gave it more weight, didn't they?
Yeah, slightly more weight.
Yeah, interesting.
And it's so funny because the Type S is sharper, and this looks great, and then you see it next to a Type S, at least front ends, and you're like, wow, that's really rounded front. Kind of like a giant EG on a modern kind of car with like how it's rounded.
Smooth,
Yeah.
rounded, okay.
But it's aggressive.
Yeah, I think they did a really nice job with this car. I am seriously thinking about buying one.
Yeah, if you can get one close to MSRP or at MSRP.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah,
you can't do that really with a FK8 or anything like that because they don't sell them brand new anymore.
And I like the white one. I'll probably wait till the end of the year though, whether to see what goes on.
I like the look from the back because, like you're saying,
The wide
kind of like
haunches?
this. Yeah, like you don't really see how wide it is until you get out back. That's probably from it being actually a whole new body panel versus tacked on.
Yeah.
But man, it is really wide in the back.
It looks super aggressive like that from that angle. I think the body styling is so much better on this. I mean, I know it's not as race boy, what's the word I'm looking for?
Racer boy? Boy
Yeah,
racer?
boy racer. Yeah, I didn't mean to say rice boy, racer boy.
Rice boy. I think I knew them.
I got a rice boy, John Naderi's old video thing. I like it. I like it a lot.
It's more grown up and plus the interior is such an upgrade from the 10th gen.
I love I call them iPad dashes.
Touchpad?
Yeah, touchpad. You can actually rest your thumb on a little sill there to make it easier to hit the target you want to hit. It's not quite as tall. I just think they did a good job, and I just love the way it's trimmed out on the dash. I think it looks really, really super. They did a nice job with that car all around. Let me guess, you're gonna rate this as number 8.
Well, actually, yes. What do you guys think of these lists? Whose list do you agree with more? I feel like
Poll.
Yeah. Well, I feel like a lot of people will just go with your list because it's basically 1, 2, 3 is the golden era. And I have something that's pretty fairly new, but it does a lot of the stuff that we would modify the golden era cars to do just right out of the box.
Well, it's funny because you put in the current one you own and the one you want.
In between the other one that I own.
Otherwise it would have been very similar to mine.
But I mean, people do vote with their checkbooks, right? Like you vote with your money.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's no surprise that you own a buttload of EFs.
Yeah, but
And-
absolutely not. Yeah, absolutely. But
Other than, for the purpose of for Hasport,
I also
you have
own-
them for just for you.
I also own 3 of the generation of your car, but 2 of them were given to me. That's not true. I bought 1. I bought 2 of the 3. So
I bought one of them.
yeah. But by that same token, let's see. This is going to make people angry. I have 5 of those. I have 3 of those. I have 2 of those. I have 5 of those.
3 of those.
I have 3 of those. I have 2 of those. None of those. None of those. None of those. 2 of those. 1 of those. All right, yes. Let us know what you think of the list.
What's your ranking?
Yeah, rank your cars.
Because
Exactly.
there's other people that have done rankings, like Donut did theirs,
Yep,
but they have a different perspective than us.
they do. And they actually drove the cars right
Yeah,
then and there.
yeah, but
and
they're
not,
also
well, they
slow.
had not driven them before, a lot of them before. So they were just basing their ideas on a quick drive on the car. These cars, I've lived with a bunch of these cars, and I've seen them all come and go. So, not that my opinion is worth more than their opinion, but
Well, I mean, it is going to be different, for sure.
it's going to be different. Yeah,
Because, you know,
but let us know what you think.
let's see, swapped it, haven't swapped it, swapped it, swapped it. Like,
Yeah,
put what you think.
yeah. What you think?
Are we just full of crap?
Yeah.
Like,
Do we not know what we're
like
talking about?
is it too easy for you because you're like, I can do X, Y, and Z, no problem, bang, 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 versus,
Well, somebody else is like, I couldn't do that.
what am I going to do with this?
Yeah, I'll just buy a 2012 because it has this much horsepower and goes this fast. And I respect that.
Yeah, it's so funny,
I just wouldn't do that.
Of my top 5, I haven't driven my number 1.
Sorry about that.
Well, Type R version.
All righty, guys. Hey, thanks for struggling through this.
This epic video, although it's going to be way shorter when we edit it down.
Yeah.
So if you think this is long, you should see the stuff we
if
actually did.
if we had the live of this thing, you guys would be checked out days ago. Anyway, guys, thanks a lot for joining us for another episode of VTEC Academy. Think about liking and subscribing. We got some cool stuff coming up.
Or we don't. Either way,
Yeah.
just watch it. And
Yeah, just watch it. Go back and watch
if
the
enough
old
people
stuff.
watch all the videos, then we can do cooler stuff.
Yeah, true. All right, guys, thanks a lot.